A road in Kisumu, half built. The tarmac just ends mid-sentence. A hospital in Kakamega, the word is full. The medicine shelf, sadly, is not. A borehole in Wajir, drilled, paid for, and completed on paper. Unfortunately, the water is still not, running. Maybe Kenya's problem is simple. Maybe our leaders are just, incompetent. Bad planners, weak systems, too many departments, not enough capacity. It happens. To young governments, it actually happens. But there is a more dangerous question hiding underneath all of that. If they already know where the money disappears, if the Auditor-General has been saying the same things for 5 consecutive years, if the same counties, the same funds, the same patterns, then what exactly are we calling incompetence? Welcome back to the Kenyan Week that was. I'm your host, DY, and today we're asking the very pertinent and very important question. Are our leaders just incompetent or irredeemably corrupt? Or perhaps both? Let's start by giving them the benefit of the doubt. All right? You're with me? Let's start honestly. Governing 47 devolved units simultaneously, units with different population, different revenue bases, different histories, while running a consolidated national budget for nearly 5 trillion shillings. That is genuinely difficult. Kenya moved from a centralized state to a devolved one in 2013. 13 years ago, county governments were asked to build bureaucracies from scratch, establish procurement systems, hire technical staff, manage their own finances, often without institutional memory or the trained people to do it cleanly, quote unquote. And the data shows that pressure. Look at the wage bill. Counties spending half their money on themselves. Here's a law most Kenyans don't know or don't understand it exists. Regulation 25 of the Public Finance Management County Government Regulations says a county government cannot spend more than 35% of its total revenue on salaries and wages. 35% is the legal ceiling. Are we together? Now, in the 2023-2024 financial year, the Auditor-General found that county governments collectively spend 45% of their revenue on wages. 45. We're already above by 10%. And in 2024-2025, it went up to 46%. 46% on salaries. When the law clearly says 35. In the 2023-2024 audit, only 4 out of 47 county executives were actually within the legal limit. 4. As in 1, 2, 3, 4. Or 47. And if you start breaking down the data and looking for the exact counties, you find Kisumu County Executive. They spent 68% of their entire revenue just on salaries. Kajiado County Executive in 2024-2025, 63%. Then there's Nyeri with 59%. Which means, after paying their workers, these counties had almost nothing left. Nothing left for roads, nothing for hospitals, for the projects that justify their actual existence. That, my friends, is a real governance problem. You cannot deliver services when you consume the budget paying for the people who are supposed to deliver it. Secondly, let's look at pending bills. And if there's anything you need to remember, because I bet as a Kenyan, you've had this the longest time in this current and even the previous administration. And this number, my friends, should actually frighten you. The number that tells you everything is the pending bills figure. Pending bills are money that county governments legally owe, to suppliers, to contractors, to service providers, but have not yet paid. In 2019-2020, county governments owed 40 billion shillings in pending bills, thereabout. By 2020-2021, it got to 55 billion. By 2021-2022, 91 billion. By 2022-2023, 165 billion. By 2023-2024, we were at 227 billion shillings. Are you catching my drift? As in, no one is paying. There's something that is seriously broken. You give services to the county governments, and guess what? You have a less than 60 or 70% of actually being paid. And here they say that the government is the best, partner, business partner. In 5 years, county pending bills grew by 464%. Kahawa, baba. 464%. And Nairobi City County alone owed 119 billion shillings in unpaid bills as of June 2024. 53%. And we're talking 2 years ago of the entire country's county pending bills in one county. The people on the other end of those pending bills are not abstractions. They are contractors who built a county road in Kiambu and is still waiting to be paid 3 years later. They are medical suppliers whose invoices have been outstanding so long they've had to borrow from banks to stay alive. They are the construction workers who poured foundation for a health center and were never paid for the final phase. 227 billion shillings owed. And Nairobi County officials still found money to travel. Let me tell you what Nairobi County was doing in 2024-2025, while sitting on 88 billion shillings in pending bills. According to the Controller of Budget's County Government Expenditure Review Report, Nairobi City County spent 863 million shillings on travel in the 2024-2025 financial year. The highest of any county in the freaking country. Let me be specific about where that money went. 13 officers from the Innovation and Digital Economy Department flew to Dubai in May 2025. Certified cybersecurity training. 28 million shillings was the cost. The Nairobi Revenue Authority sent a delegation to Malaysia in December 2024 for a workshop on revenue automation and governance. Guess what the cost was? 23 million shillings. The finance department could not be left out, so they flew to Singapore. 19 million shillings. The office of the deputy governor went to Dubai for a fashion. For a fashion exhibition. 17 million shillings was the bill. 17. A fashion exhibition. Nairobi County, 88 billion shillings in pending bills. But a fashion exhibition in Dubai, is one of the things we had to tick the box. You can't honestly make this shit up. And Nairobi was not alone. Machakos County spent 631 million shillings on travel. They made 47 foreign trips in a single year. 47. Kisumu County's favorite overseas destination is one for the books. London and Washington, D.C. One Kisumu executive spent 2.7 million shillings to attend. And these are the exact words from the Controller of Budget report, various meetings in the USA. Various meetings in the USA. That's the entire description. Not a training, they were just various. As in, this is how lazy and how either incompetent or irredeemably corrupt they are, that they can't even come up with creative descriptions for such travels. Various meetings in the US of A. And Kakamega County wasn't to be left out. They spent 12 million shillings on foreign travel, including 1,300,000 shillings for a single official to attend what was described as a Luya community meeting in Seattle. Ladies and gentlemen, As in, I don't know whether you're seeing or you could hear what I'm saying. As in, they spent 1.3 million shillings for a single official to attend a Luya community meeting in Seattle. Because in the day and age of technology, we can't do Zoom, we can't do come on. No, we need to talk to our people on the ground in the diaspora. We have to talk to them, we have to go and meet them and find out what they are up to. All of this was paid by the Kakamega County taxpayers. And I want you to understand that this isn't funny. This is not even, we laugh about it, but it's the bane of our existence. Because across all 47 counties combined, the 2024-2025 Controller of Budget report found 14.2 billion shillings on domestic travel, 2 billion shillings on foreign travel, 16 billion shillings in total in 1 year. To Paris, to Dubai, Malaysia, Singapore, the Netherlands, Spain, the UK, the US of A, Qatar, Canada. And the Controller of Budget herself noted the amount being spent on travel is excessive and largely unnecessary. Counties must prioritize development projects and ensure public funds are used responsibly. Now, you could still argue this is incompetence. Bad priorities, poor financial discipline, leaders who do not understand the difference between development spending and personal enrichment through per diems. Perhaps, maybe. But Kisumu knows London is not cheaper than Kisumu. Machakos knows 47 foreign trips is 47 foreign trips. At what point does bad prioritization become a choice? Let us look at the Wajir Generator when incompetence gets freaking specific. Here's a specific one that the auditors flagged in Wajir County. Wajir County spent 9 million shillings, 9 million, on repairing a single generator. The Auditor-General report on Wajir noted, and I'm quoting directly, the expenditure was estimated as enough to purchase a new generator, raising concerns of potential excess and wasteful expenditure. 9 million shillings to repair a generator when you could buy a freaking brand new one for the same amount. And then, separately, Wajir County spent 56 million shillings in avoidable and wasteful expenditure in 2024-2025 financial year. According to the Auditor General's County Summary Report, 56 million in avoidable waste. From a county where maternal mortality is among the highest in the country, where people in remote areas sometimes die waiting for an ambulance that has no fuel. Imagine. But they had 45 billion shillings of excessive waste. Money that they would have used, for the betterment of their own people. Sadly, that, my friends, is the incompetence case. Real, documented, and specific. Let me give you the full audit picture of 2023-2024. 32 counties executives could not support a total of 5.4 billion shillings in expenditure with proper documentation. 27 county executives had unreconciled variances, money that does not add up between different records, totaling to 58 billion shillings. All 47 county executives had voided transactions. That money that formerly moved and was then reversed without explanation, totaling to 110 billion shillings across 76,000 individual transactions. All 47 of them. 40 out of 47 had unresolved prior year issues that had been flagged before and never fixed. As in, these guys were told, okay, hapa kuna tatizo. Go and correct. Do better. And guess what they did? Nothing. And this is the number that should stop you in your freaking tracks. Not one, not a single county executive in Kenya achieved a clean audit opinion for 5 consecutive years between 2019 and 2024. Not even one. And in 2024-2025, Makueni County became the first county executive to receive a clean opinion. One county out of 47 after 13 years of devolution. We need to freaking give these people a freaking applause. After 13 years of devolution, we finally found one county executive that was given a clean bill of health. And guess what is it? Makueni. Whatever they are, can we duplicate them 47 times? And we try and for 1 minute, try and see, could we replicate? Other than going to the USA or to Canada or to Spain or to Qatar or Dubai for benchmarking, why not visit Makueni County? At least they have something. At least in 13 years, ever since devolution started, they have given us a clean bill of health. As in every other county, 46 of them still could not produce financial statements the Auditor-General could fully verify. As in, we are talking about a balance sheet that needs to balance. But they have expenditure that, and if, my God, this you guys are doing the research. I had the opportunity of looking and listening in to some of what SPAC, the Senator Public Accounts Committee, was actually doing when they have these governors come to defend their expenditure. And guess what? I listened in to Gladys Wanga from Homa Bay, who claimed to have spent 500,000, half a mil, on, guess what? Pit latrine. Half a mil to sink a freaking pit latrine. Oh, but this one had double doors. You seriously cannot make this shit up. I kid you not. Now, here's where it gets uncomfortable. In the foreword of the 2023-2024 County Government Audit Report, the Auditor-General writes this. As previously reported, an effective mechanism for follow-up on the implementation of audit recommendation is lacking. As such, most audit queries recur in subsequent audit reports due to lack of requisite action. Ate? Lack of requisite action. As previously reported. Word for word. That sentence appears in the 2022-2023 National Government Funds Report, in the 2023-2024 National Government Funds Report, in the 2024-2025 County Governments Report. The Auditor-General is not making a new observation. No. The Auditor-General is copy and pasting the warning that nobody acts on. A mistake repeated for 10 years stops looking like a bloody mistake. And here is a story from the National Government Funds Audit. The 2023-2024 report on Kenya Energy Sector Environment and Social Responsibility Program Fund. The auditors found that payments of 22,400,000 shillings were made to 2 contractors for, among other things, benchmarking trips. The benchmarking trips had not yet been conducted. The money had already been paid, and there was no supporting evidence, no minutes, no work tickets, no attendance registers to show the trips ever happened at all. 22 million shillings vanished. For benchmarking trips that may or may have not occurred, with no evidence at all either way. You tell me, are we incompetent or just irrevocably and irredeemably corrupt? Because meanwhile, at the county level, Bomet County in 2024-2025 controller of budget period, one county official spent 992,000 shillings on a 10-day trip to the United Kingdom for a Pyrethrum revival meeting. One official, 10 days. The UK, nearly 1 million bob. And Kisumu County Assembly members used county funds for travel to attend what was recorded as a Thanksgiving ceremony in Uganda. A Thanksgiving ceremony, public money to attend someone's Thanksgivings because WhatsApp doesn't work, because Safaricom really doesn't have reach to Uganda. You can't just call them up and tell them, imagine, thanks, you guys, whatever you've done, and we congratulate you and have yourself a lovely day. Because now, at some point, you have to ask, is this incompetence? Or is these people who know exactly what they're doing and know that nothing will happen? Let me tell you about the county assemblies. The law is clear. The approved budget for a county assembly cannot exceed 7% of the county's total revenue, or twice the personal emoluments, whichever is lower. Clear, specific in the regulations. In 2023-2024, the combined county assembly budget was 48.8 billion shillings. The applicable legal ceiling was 37.9 billion. They went over by 10.9 billion shillings before spending a single shilling on any form of development. A budget has to be voted on. It has to be approved. There is a process. People sat in rooms and approved a budget that was nearly 11 billion shillings over the legal limit. That is not a rounding error. Again, that is not a rounding off error. That is another word. That starts with a big C. And the question here is, who is supposed to stop them? The county assemblies themselves. The county assemblies approve their own budget. The people who were supposed to provide oversight approved their own overspending, and then guess what? They flew to Dubai. Yes, they did. That's what they were supposed. They were supposed to be the guys who were offering oversight, but guess what? They oversighted us all the way from a fairyland of Dubai. And here's another one that keeps happening year after year. The Council of Governors is a coordination body for Kenya's 47 governors. Its operating costs are supposed to be funded from the national government budget. That's what the law says. Section 37 of the Intergovernmental Relations Act. But in 2023-2024, 23 county executives made contributions to the Council of Governors totaling to 79 million shillings. In 2024-2025, 21 county executives made contributions totaling to 78 million shillings. Both times flagged by the Auditor-General as a violation of the law. Both times, guess what? Nothing changed. The same illegal thing, 2 years in a row, documented both times and repeated anyway. Because what happens when you make an illegal contribution to the Council of Governors? Nothing. Now, this is the part I want you to sit with. The information is not missing. The Auditor-General's office has 15 regional offices. They physically visit project sites. They reconcile bank statements against cash books. They test procurement records against delivery receipts. They check payroll against staff lists. And every December, they produce documents that tell you exactly what happened. Which counties couldn't account for their money. Which funds spent without governance framework. Which projects were paid for but never billed. Which officials received allowances for trips they may never have taken. The diagnosis is not absent. What is absent is the treatment. Because what do you call a system that detects failure beautifully but almost never punishes it? You tell me. Because I'm still trying to find the right descriptive word for that very thing. Let me give you one of the more specific, most revealing examples in this entire evidence base. The Street Families Rehabilitation Trust Fund, a government fund designed to help Kenya's street children living on the streets, one of the most vulnerable populations in the freaking country. In 2023-2024 National Government Funds Audit, the Auditor-General found that out of the fund's total expenditure of 246 million shillings, 146 million shillings, as in 60% of the total expenditure, was spent on travel, subsistence, and other allowances. And the fund's actual disbursement to children's homes across Kenya, 65 million shillings, 26% alone. A fund for street children, 60% on travel and allowances, and 26% on the children. Now, how do you explain that to the child sleeping on the pavement in Nairobi? You know, that child that Mosiria keeps forever, documenting with his phone and his lights and he's converted them into content. That we spent 3 times as much getting officials to meetings as we spent helping them. How? That's not incompetence. That's a freaking culture. Let's look at the Hustler Fund. The Hustlers Fund, officially the Financial Inclusion Fund, launched with a significant political energy as the flagship intervention for the informal economy. You know, loans for Mamamboga, border operators, and small traders. In the year 2023-2024 National Government Funds Audit, the Auditor-General found that the fund could not provide basic documentation, certificates of bank balances for mobile money float accounts at Safaricom and other telcos, reconciliation records. The result? The Auditor-General issued a disclaimer of opinion on the Hustlers Fund, which means we cannot form any opinion on whether these financial statements are accurate. The information simply was not there. The Hustlers Fund, the government's high-profile financial inclusion program, received a grade that says we cannot audit this properly because we cannot even ascertain whether we have all the documentation. The one thing that he promised that he's going to do day one. And if you want to know about it, we have an episode exactly on this channel about the Hustler Fund, which we will also pin right over here or here, somewhere. And then there is perhaps the most brazen one in the entire evidence base. The Railway Development Levy Fund. Operation account. A fund that collects levies from railway operations. In the year 2023-2024 audit, the Auditor-General found that the management had stopped preparing financial statements in 2021-2022 financial year. Just stopped. As in, waliwacha tu. 3 years without financial statements. The reason given? Unclear circumstances. Those three words appear in an official audit report. A government fund stopped filing accounts. Unclear circumstances. The Auditor-General issued a disclaimer of opinion. Again, a fund collecting public money, 3 years, no financial statements, no explanation, and the people responsible are still in their freaking offices. You see, in June 2026, as we record this, the Finance Bill 2026-2027 is part of the public conversation. Just goes past yesterday, I think. New revenue measures, continued pressure on the tax base. The government needs more money. And standing behind that request are these documents. 4 Auditor-General reports. A petroleum development fund that spent 47 billion shillings on price stabilization without a governance framework after the National Treasury told them to set one up in 2022, and they simply did not. A hustler fund that can't document its own cash. 227 billion shillings in county pending bills. 2 billion spent on county foreign trips and travels in a year. 16 billion on travel total. 46 counties with qualified or adverse audit opinions. The question is not whether taxes are necessary. They are. The question is, what is the relationship between what the state demands from us as citizens and what the state demonstrates it can do with what it already receives? The state always knows exactly where to look for more taxes. It almost never knows where the last batch went. And that's the oxymoron in the room. They know how to borrow, but they can't authoritatively tell us, yes, we are coming in to ask for more because this and this and this is what we did in the last financial year. But hell, we know how to ask for more taxes. Here's a thesis. It's uncomfortable, and the evidence doesn't definitively prove it, but it also doesn't disapprove it. What if some of Kenya's institutional failures are not accidental? In a system where procurement is properly competitive, contracts go to the lowest qualified bidder. project's completion is independently verified before payment. There is almost no room to extract personal benefit. The money moves predictably because the system is freaking tight. But in a system where procurement can be done through restricted tendering, where the same contractor can appear under different company names, where payments can be released for projects at 70% completion documented as complete, where benchmarking trips are paid before they even freaking happen, and then they never happen at all. There is enormous room. And guess what? A weak system is not profitable for the public. It can be extremely profitable for whoever controls the weakness. Let's go back to Nairobi, because Nairobi is the most instructive case in the entire evidence base. In 2024-2025, the Auditor-General County Summary Report, 22 county executives were flagged for avoidable and wasteful expenditure. Total 10.9 billion shillings. Nairobi City County alone, 8.4 billion. 8,370 million shillings in avoidable and wasteful expenditure in one county, in one freaking year. But Nairobi lazima iwak. Mugi Genje. And you wonder why. Nairobi also has 88 billion shillings in pending bills, 40% of all county pending bills nationally. 88 billion owed to suppliers and contractors, 8.4 billion in wasteful expenditure, 863 million on travel. These three numbers describe the same county in the same year. The county cannot pay its bills, but it can take officials to Dubai, Malaysia, and Singapore. Its officials can be found with, quote unquote, 250 million shillings. Oh, sorry. As per the EACC, it is 65 million shillings in their freaking homes. And you tell me we have a freaking county. How? In August 2023, the national government and county governments launched the County Aggregation and Industrial Parks Program. 24 counties, 2-year contracts, total value, nearly 11 billion shillings. The idea, build agro-processing industrial parks to add value to agricultural produce and create jobs. In 2024-2025 audit covering the year ended June 2025 found that nearly 9 billion shillings had already been paid to contractors. The deadline was August of 2025. The parks are not complete. And there is no clear intergovernmental funding agreement defining what each level of government was supposed to contribute. So separately, 2 counties constructed industrial parks that weren't even on the official list of 24. 1 billion shillings spent on parks nobody authorized. Money moved. Concrete was poured. Payments were made. But the factories where the young Kenyans were supposed to process agricultural goods and earn a freaking living are still not there. And then there is the Petroleum Development Fund. In the 2023-2024 National Government Funds Audit, the Auditor-General found that the fund had disbursed 47 billion 400 million shillings in a single year on oil market price stabilization. In July 2022, the National Treasury formally wrote to the relevant state department. They said, form a multi-agency team, review the total resource requirement, assess the sustainability of the fuel stabilization program. The State Department did not form the freaking team. It continued spending the money anyway. 47 billion shillings. No government framework, no sustainability assessment, no multi-agency task force. Just 47 billion shillings disbursed with no documented structure for deciding how, why, or for how long. And Kenyans at the pump still felt every freaking price increase. Meanwhile, the Petroleum Training Levy Fund has 3.6 billion shillings in outstanding receivables. Money owed by oil companies, some dating back to 2011, including 221 million shillings owed by Lamu Oil and Gas Limited, a company that was deregistered in December 2020. It no longer legally exists, so the money is almost, if not certainly, gone. That's the thing. It reads like freaking comedy. While we laugh at it, it chuckles us. Guess what? We forget that this is actual money that keeps disappearing, that would have done and changed the lives of us as citizens. And guess what? No one is held responsible at any freaking time. And finally, let's look at the dormant funds. There are government funds that have no operation, no active programs. In some cases, no surviving beneficiaries. They exist, they produce financial statements, and they are audited at public expense. They cannot be wound up. The Government Clearing Agency Fund has been dormant for over 11 years. The Cabinet approved its closure in 2021. The revocation orders went to the National Assembly. As of 2023 audit, still not passed. The Treasury Main Clearance Fund has been dormant for 12 years. Same story. The Kenyan Local Loan Support Fund, dormant since 2006. 20 years later, same story. These are not oversight gaps. These are funds with no purpose, no beneficiaries, no active operations that somehow continue to exist in Kenya's public finance architecture. Someone still controls those bank accounts. Guess what they're using them for? Your guess is as good as mine. We started with a question: incompetence or corruption or both? Having moved through the evidence, the pending bills that climb every year, the travel budgets that do not pause for austerity orders, the street children's fund that spent more on allowances than on the freaking children, the industrial parks that were paid for and do not exist, the fund that was stopped filing accounts for 3 years under unclear circumstances. And the honest answer is that the question itself may be the wrong one. Because incompetence and corruption in Kenya's current system are not opposites. They have become partners. Incompetence provides cover for corruption. If procurement records are missing, if the asset register was never updated, if the county financial system is genuinely chaotic, it becomes almost impossible to prove that a specific irregularity was deliberate rather than accidental. Chaos protects, and corruption sustains incompetence. If audit recommendations generate no sanctions, if accounting officers face no personal consequence, there is no pressure to improve. The chaos is allowed to persist because the chaos is the convenience. Kenya may not have a corruption problem plus an incompetence problem. It may have a system where the two have fused into a single stable dysfunction. Let me put the scale of 4 years of Audit-General reports into a single frame. County spending bills, 2023-2024, 226 billion. 5-year growth of 464%. County's total travel spending, 2024-2025, domestic plus foreign, 16.2 billion. Nairobi alone, avoidable wasteful expenditure, 2024-2025, 8.37 billion. Unsupported county executive expenditure, 2023-2024, 5.38 billion across 32 counties. Voided transactions, 23-24, 76,524 transactions, 110 billion incomplete documentation. Equalization fund constitutionally owed to marginalized areas, 46.5 billion, not disbursed. Petroleum Development Fund, spending without governance framework, 47.4 billion in 1 year. County aggregation packs, paid but not functional, 8.9 billion disbursed. Street Families Fund, travel versus actual children support, 60% on allowances and 26 versus 26 on the children. County executive with zero clean audit opinion, 5 consecutive years, all 47 failed, 2019 to 2024. Not one county executive clean for 5 years. And finally, one got there in 2024, 2025, which is Makueni. 46 others still could not pull it off. And this is the loop that doesn't close. Because here's how the accountability system is supposed to work. The Auditor-General flags problems. The report goes to Parliament, the Senate for the county governments, the National Assembly for national funds. Committees summon accounting officers. Officers explain. Committees recommend. Treasury applies sanctions. Accounting officers fix the problems. Next year's audit shows improvement. Here is how it actually works in my beautiful country. The Auditor-General flags problems. The report goes to Parliament. The oversight committees are overloaded, politically constrained, and on short timelines. Accounting officers come to hearings. They promise corrective action. The committee moves on. The National Treasury does not apply sanctions. Next year's audit shows the same problems. The same language. In the foreword, as previously reported, copy, paste, different here. The system detects failure beautifully. It just doesn't punish it. And guess what? Who bears the cost? Because when Nairobi owes 88 billion shillings to suppliers and contractors, someone bears that cost. It is a small construction company that built a county building and has never been paid for 2 years. It is a medical supplier whose invoices date back to 2022. It is an engineer who poured foundation and paid his workers out of personal loans because the county hasn't settled. When the Street Families Fund spends 60% on staff travel, and only 26% on street children, someone bears the cost. And in this case, it is the child still sleeping on Tom Mboya freaking street. When 16 billion shillings goes to county government's travel in a single year, while 23 counties fail to meet the 30% development budget threshold, someone bears the cost. It is a resident whose word road has been a dirt track for almost 3 years. So when the equalization fund is owed 46 billion shillings by the National Treasury, constitutionally and marginalized communities are still waiting. Someone bears the cost. It is the families in a remote area of Turkana or Wajir or Lamu who are supposed to have water in their house or a water project next to their village, a clinic, a school, some level of freaking improvement. The people who design these failures or allow them to persist are not bearing any of the freaking cost. So, are our leaders incompetent? Some of them. Genuinely. Yeah, genuinely, yes. Some of the failures in these domains are real failures of capacity, real failures of training, real failures of systems that grew faster than the people managing them. Or our leaders corrupt? Some of them. Correction. Most of them. Demonstrably, yes. The patterns are too consistent, the reoccurrence too deliberate, the specific decisions. The Dubai trips with 88 billion in pending bills, the 47 billion without a framework, the fund that stopped filing for 3 years. These are not accidents. But the more accurate answer is at a systemic level, Kenya may now be governed by a political class for whom the distinction between incompetence and corruption no longer matters because neither carries consequence. An accounting officer who loses public funds through genuine incompetence faces no sanctions. An accounting officer also who loses public funds through deliberate misdirection faces no consequence. Both appear in the audit report. Both explain themselves to Parliament. Both return to their freaking offices. When the consequence is the same for failure and for theft, the system has stopped functioning as a system. And for you, all of you who are out there saying, maybe the audit infrastructure doesn't work, maybe we have a problem with reporting. No, the audit infrastructure works. The Auditor-General, underfunded, understaffed, still waiting for Parliament to approve the headquarters budget, produces thorough, specific, evidence-based reports every December. In fact, the whole of this episode comes from the same content that is publicly available on the Auditor-General's website. The problem is not diagnosis. The problem, my friends, is treatment. And the treatment requires one thing above every other thing. Consequences. Mandatory, not discretionary, automatic, not political, applied to the accounting officer personally, not absorbed by the institution. Because corruption that survives because incompetence protects it, and incompetence that survives because corruption removes the consequences, is not a governance failure. It is a governance design. And the only question that matters is who keeps voting to freaking maintain it. Tafakari hayo. I've been your host, DY. Have yourselves a lovely, lovely day, night, or evening, wherever you are. Barakatele.